Welcome, Bruins. We're so excited that you're here with us today, wherever you may be, for this virtual stage. Thank you for joining us for our first Empower Hour webinar for the year. My name is Patricia Tiaong-Nguyen, and I serve as a Senior Director of Diversity Programs with UCLA Alumni Affairs. A little bit about us. Diversity programs focus on energizing and engaging diverse alumni through a variety of programs and activities, one of which includes this Empower Hour. It's a one-hour webinar that brings culturally relevant discussions on issues and themes of diversity to benefit all people striving to navigate a challenging world. We're so very excited to start this new year off with this Empower Hour that focuses on a vast experience of 4 wonderful alumni who embody what it truly means to be a true Bruin, and who have found so many different ways to sustain their activism through something that's often overlooked: how to take care of oneself. Yes, self-advocacy is a topic for tonight, and we have 4 wonderful alumni with some tips of the trade in 4 5-minute talks on how to hold ourselves accountable to this in different ways and in different spaces. A few notes: you can ask us questions in Google Hangout. We're very thankful for you all on social media who have hashtag questions to us, and for now we're hoping that you can submit those here on the Google Hangout. We'll be moderating the questions and would like to note that we appreciate your questions, but unfortunately, given that there's only an hour, we're only going to be able to get to a few. So I'd like to bring out our panelists for tonight, and our first speaker of the night is Yasmeen Muqtasid, who holds a Bachelor's in Communication Studies and is a Distinguished J. Paul Getty Fellow and UCLA Anderson Roden Fellow. In 2010, Yasmeen founded Black Women Matter, an organization dedicated to enriching the lives of Black women globally. She'll be speaking on renewing mission and legacy into your life.
Thank you, Patricia, and welcome, Bruins and friends of Bruins. Today I want to talk to you about renewing mission and legacy into your life. Now, in order to do this, I want to take you back to your graduation day ceremony from UCLA. And if you would, tap into of emotions ranging from joy and fear, excitement and anxiety. Maybe you were wondering what type of as you walked across that stage, if your family was going to cheer loud and proud for you. But if there was one thing you knew for sure, it was that you were going to conquer the world and change it. Now, flash forward into your first job. 2 years in, the daily routines have started to kick in. The Department of Education is knocking on your door. And if you were anything like me, those earlier feelings that you were going to conquer the world started to dim. They started to fade. Let me suggest to you that you may have caught a bout of an SCD, or what I like to call selfie culture disease. You see, today we live in a world that is hyper-connected technologically, but we aren't connected to our communities and to the issues in our very own backyard. The selfie culture today is about the exterior beauty shot. It's not about the interior, and we need to examine our inner selfie in order to be a part of the outside world. I want to share with you an experience that I had recently that really challenged me in this area. You know, I was just in my own normal routine when a homeless woman interrupted me, and she simply said, "Miss, I'm just really hungry. Can you spare some change so that I can get some food?" And it was at that moment that I realized that I was the answer to her real world need. I also understood that if I decided to ignore it, that she wouldn't be the only one leaving that interaction empty-handed. You see, the food that I was able to provide to her body was also nourishment for my soul. All of us as Bruins, no matter what our background, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or any of the myriad of beautiful cultures that grace the UCLA campus, we have all been given privilege and access, and some of us even more so. I want to share with you about Oxfam. Oxfam is an organization that fights global poverty, and they have said that if you make just $32,000 a year, you are part of the top 1%, not the top 1% here in the world. We are rich. And we weren't given our degrees just to enrich our own lives, but to also contribute to the communities outside of us who may not have the same access to the resources that we have. You see, we need to contribute our voice in order to bring about hope, to bring about action, and to bring about change. The issues are many, from homelessness to human trafficking to racial injustice, climate change, and we need to be a part of that change. Now, I'm going to give you 5 self-activation keys that if you utilize these, they will actually help to reignite that former spirit that you could conquer the world and to change it. The first one is, I need you to think about, when was the last time you felt alive? When have you felt the most joy? When have you been in the flow? The second key is to identify your strengths and identify those strengths that people respond to in a positive manner. And then third, what's a cause that aligns to your mission and to your values? A cause that you want to interact with on an intentional basis regularly. You know, it may be a club, a nonprofit. Find one and connect with it on a daily basis. And then third, learn something new and different. Our education didn't just stop when we left UCLA. It continues today. Outside of our selfie and into the world. Get outside of your comfort zone and do something different. And then finally, do it afraid. Everyone has fears, but you know what? Courage is when we do things afraid and we come out on the other side seeing how our inner selfie rose to the occasion. You know, the world is waiting for you to make an imprint onto it and a deposit into it that only you can. The world's got 99 problems, and I guarantee you, you are the answer to one of them. Now, I want you to close your eyes for just a moment, and I want you to think about the best photo you have seen. It wasn't a selfie of a pretty girl in front of the mirror saying, "Look at me." It was probably of a group of friends or family capturing their collective joy. It's about the we. It is not about the me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yasmeen, for kicking us off for this wonderful Empower Hour. I truly feel inspired, and thank you for taking us back and reminding us of our passions and our dreams. I think it's so particularly important right now, given so much that's going on in the world of politics and education in our workplaces. And so I'm so excited to be able to feature 4 alumni who really are speaking in broad ways. And for this next 2 talks, we're really going to go into some specifics around how we navigate certain aspects, and particularly the institutions that we have to engage with on a daily basis. So next, we have Dr. Glenna Tolbert, who graduated from UCLA with a bachelor's in psychobiology. After medical school, she became a board-certified physician who has specialized in physical medicine and rehabilitation and spinal cord injury medicine since 1993. She currently has her own practice, the Tolbert Center for Rehabilitation and Wellness. Additionally, because that doesn't keep her busy enough, Glenna serves as Assistant Clinical Professor of Medicine at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. I'm so truly thankful for my relationship with her, and I'm excited to have her share so many of the pearls of wisdom she has offered me in her talk, Navigating Healthcare and Self-Care.
Thank you, Patricia. And thank you, Yasmeen. I'm definitely stepping out of myself doing this webinar. Hello, Bruins. Hello, everyone. Your best health advocate for health is you. Take control of your health by understanding your health insurance and your health plan. True story. About 3 weeks ago, I get a call from one of my patients. He needs to get into the office for a same-day appointment because he's in crazy pain. He limps into the office. "Doc, my back, my leg. Doc, you have to get me out of this pain. I have to go to work tomorrow." Young man, new job. He's already had 1 back surgery and he's not trying to do another. He can barely make it into my office. I offer him a pain procedure for pain relief that day. He looks up at me and says, "But Doc, will my insurance cover this?" Point number 1, understand your health insurance and your health plan. Know what it covers, know how it works, know your copays, know your deductibles. This is your responsibility. There's no way that your doctor can know this with certainty because you signed up for this and agreed to the contract in the privacy of your home with your insurance agent or representative. Old school was simply HMO, PPO. HMO, you knew that your primary had to give you authorizations or permission, if you will, to go see specialists, and you had to see a certain group. You could not go outside of that group of doctors or services. PPO. Oh yes, we would boast that we had a PPO. Why? Because we didn't need permission, right? And we could go anywhere. We didn't need authorization. Nowadays, PPOs require authorizations, and there's not just PPO, HMO. HMO, PPO, IPA, ACO, EPO. Crazy, right? So yes, even with PPOs now, they require authorizations. And guess what? Even in my practice, I can have two people, same insurance company, both PPOs. One may require authorization for the same services, whereas the other one does not. Yes, and guess what? You better check your mail because what was covered maybe earlier in the year, the rules may change later on in the year. So understand what you have. Okay, back to my patient. He gets the pain procedure and he says, "Doc, I am feeling better. Thank you. But Doc, I need an MRI tonight." "I'm serious, doctor." I said, "No problem. I agree with you. I'm very worried too for him." So I quickly write for an MRI order to two facilities. So in case one cannot accommodate him, he's still able to get in. Next day, we called to check on him. But he didn't get the MRI, despite, as adamant as he was. Bruin family, why do you think he did not get the MRI? Exactly. His insurance would not authorize it, and there was a $450 copay. Point number 2. Insurance plans and health insurance are businesses with shareholders that they must respond to. So they are making business decisions which, although may be good for their bottom line, are not necessarily good for your health. Point number 3, your doctor or healthcare professional is making medical decisions, within the guidelines of your insurance company and within the guidelines of what you signed up for and agreed to. In fact, certain contracts may penalize your doctor if they offer certain treatments, if they make certain referrals, or order, in their opinion, too many tests. And this is why I do not sign such contracts, because I want to be free to have discussions with my patients on the latest innovations. Even for things that I might not offer, I still want my patients to know about this. So, flip the script on your doctor and say, "Doc, if money were not an issue, what treatment would you recommend for me?" In closing, take control of your health by, number 1, know what your insurance covers. Understand that your insurance's business decisions do affect the medical decisions. And finally, challenge your doctor by saying, "Doc, if it weren't about money, what treatment would you offer me?" You are your best healthcare advocate. Take control. Thank you, and go Bruins.
Thank you so much, Glenna. One of the values of being a Bruin is lifelong learning. And as much as we always have this value of trying to help our own communities, it is really important for us to take the time to understand how we can advocate for ourselves before it's actually too late. So yes, I need to go back and read all those insurance plans and really understand what kind of healthcare plan I have so that I can advocate for myself. And what a great question to be able to ask my physician the next time I see her. So thank you so much, and it thinks about all these options that we do have. There's so many out there, and it can be really confusing. And this is also especially true actually when you think about your first employee handbook from your first job. which leads us to another relevant topic by our next speaker, Angela Reddock-Wright, who holds her JD from UCLA Law School. She's the founding and managing attorney of Reddock Law Group, a boutique employment and labor law firm based in downtown LA. She has been practicing law for almost 20 years and handles cases dealing with workplace issues, wrongful termination, harassment, discrimination, and much more. What a great advocate. What a great person to be proud of. Angela will be speaking in her talk, Empowering Ourselves at Work.
Thank you, Patricia, and it is such an honor to participate in tonight's Empower Hour and to be a part of a panel of such distinguished and accomplished women. I'm a little in awe. I almost can't speak now because I'm thinking about what Yasmeen said and what Dr. Tolbert said. And I don't know about you, but I want Dr. Tolbert as my doctor, so I'll be calling her up real soon. So I'm particularly excited because I have a chance to talk about something that I am personally very passionate about, and that's the workplace. I know that we all spend so much time at work, and I've spent the last 20 years of my career kind of observing and thinking about what makes great workplaces and what makes great employees and what makes us happy to get up and to go to work every day. So I'll talk about that in a few seconds. But first, let me just give you a little bit of my background, which has helped shape who I am and why I believe what I believe. So I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. That's where my family's from. Both of my parents are from there. And I grew up in Birmingham up until the age of 9. And one of my first memories of the workplace and issues dealing with work was with my grandmother, Fleta Gills. And she was a home health care worker. And I remember so vividly to this day walking the picket lines with her and her coworkers as they fought for better wages and better benefits in their work environment. And I didn't really understand at that point what that meant and the significance of it, but as I look back over my life and why I'm committed to the workplace, that memory is certainly vivid in my mind. And then jump ahead, my mother and I moved to California, the Golden State, in my mind, the land of Disneyland, when I was 9 years old, and we settled in Compton, California. And I had the opportunity to continue my childhood there in elementary and junior school back then, junior high school back then. And I went to high school in the west side of Los Angeles. And in high school, I had my first job. You know, something about turning 16 that we all can't wait to go to work. And now if we could reverse it in our later years, we would appreciate the time we didn't have to work. But my first job at 16, I worked for the Red Eye, which was the Forever 21 back in the 80s. It was the place to go to get your hottest outfit, your coordinated outfit, and to be in style back in the 80s. And the great thing about the Red Eye is that they really trained us. It was a great place to begin work because they really trained us how to sell. They taught us how to approach work with the energy and with zest, and when you're at work, to give it your all. And so that's my first memory of paid work. And then jump ahead, I went to college back east at Amherst College, and then came back home and decided I wanted a bigger school experience and went to law school at UCLA. And that's how I became a Bruin. And honestly, while I was in law school, I thought I would be an entertainment lawyer. So I spent all of my extracurricular activities and extra courses taking entertainment courses. But the job market was soft when I graduated, and so my goal was just to get a job, to start paying back those loans. And my first job was with a boutique employment and labor law firm. And what that means, it was a small firm. We specialized in employment law, and we happened to represent the employer side. Now, when I mention that, a lot of people say, boo, boo, how could you be on the employer side? But I, actually am happy that I had the opportunity and have had the opportunity to work on that side for so many years, because often diverse voices are missing around the table at some of our corporate tables and in our government and public sector environments. So one of the things I've enjoyed about my career is being someone who is at the table, able to advise employers on doing the right things, particularly when it comes to issues of discrimination, sexual harassment, and other issues that impact us in our work environments. And from that day, from my very first day on the job, I never looked back. I never thought, oh, I want to do entertainment law. I was completely committed to being an employment lawyer and to doing my part to help make the American workplace a great place. Now, the way I developed my passion for the workplace and issues of employment law is because I spent 15 years, I've been practicing for 20 years, and I spent 15 years of my career as a litigator, representing companies in court, in trials, in arbitrations. And that was a great experience, and I'm glad I had it. But I started to grow a little weary of constantly being in an adversarial mode, constantly being in a defense mode. And I asked myself, how can I reinvent myself? How can I take the experience that I've had the last 15 years and turn that into doing even greater good in terms of impacting the workplace? And so I decided to reinvent myself, which is another topic, Patricia, and to become a full-time mediator and arbitrator. And now I spend my time helping employers and employees to resolve workplace issues before they go to litigation, and sometimes during litigation, and the parties decide they'd like to resolve it before they go to trial. And that has brought me the greatest joy, because now I'm in the middle, I'm a neutral person, helping employers and employees to reach consensus and to be able to move forward in a positive way. And so in my 20 years of practicing employment law, I've learned a few things about what causes the work relationship to go sour. And in that, I've developed 7 tips and tools that I think are important for you to empower yourself when you go to work. They say the first tip is to pursue your passion. The saying goes, it seems somewhat passé to say it, but the saying goes, if you pursue your passion, then you'll never work a day in your life. And I so believe that. So my first point to you is to pursue your passion. And if you're not currently pursuing your passion, then think about how you can get on track towards that. Now, I'm not saying to quit your job tomorrow. Most of us, we can't afford to just quit our jobs or not to work or only to focus on our passions. But it's a wonderful thing when we can combine our passion and our work together. And so examine where you're currently working. And if there are opportunities for you to do things or to get in alignment with the things that are important to you, then seek out those opportunities. If it just isn't going to happen for you where you're currently employed, then craft out a plan, strategize as to how you're going to make a transition and how you're going to make a change. But given that we spend so much of our lives at work, we don't want to spend 50% or more of our time doing things that we don't enjoy and that aren't a part of and intrinsic to who we are and what's important to us. Secondly, I encourage you, if you're going to work, even if you're an entrepreneur like I am and some of the other ladies today, you have to show up. We RSVP for everything in our lives, for dinner reservations, for birthday parties, for weddings, for other events. I encourage you to RSVP for work. Show up for work. When you come with the energy, come with zest, come with passion, come ready to help your work environment to be the best work environment it can be and to be a great and valued contributor to that environment. In my community, we say when you show up, you have to show out. Thirdly, I encourage you to make your boss's job easier. If you're going to work every day and you're making your boss's job difficult, if your boss is afraid to talk to you or dreads talking to you or giving you an assignment, then you need to rethink your place. And you need to rethink how can you add value to your company, how can you add value to your boss and your team and what you're called to do. I promise you, if you reverse your thought, even if you have a difficult or challenging boss, if you show that person that you're there to help make them successful and then in turn you become successful because of their success, I promise you their attitude towards you will change. Fourth, I encourage you to be a leader and a follower. We don't often hear that. Usually we put ourselves in boxes of I'm a leader or I'm a follower. But sometimes in the work environment, you have to take on both roles. Being Bruins, I'm sure that many of us are often leading, and we're type A personalities, and we're the ones that are in charge. But even as Bruin and our natural leadership qualities, sometimes we have to step back and follow. And the reason that's important is, one, because when you're leading, obviously others are relying on you and are looking to you for guidance and direction. But it's equally important to be able to follow when you're not in charge. And ultimately, by being able to do both, you become seen as a team player. And again, that is sort of passe to say, but being a team player is critical to any work environment. I've often heard it said, there's no I in team. It's only working together as a group in a collaborative manner that we're able to achieve great things in our workplaces. Fifth, I encourage you to find a sponsor. We've heard of the concept of mentorship for many years, and I'm sure many of us have great mentors, and I encourage you to keep those mentors. But the new school of thought is that if we're to be successful in our career paths, in our jobs, we not only need mentors, we need sponsors. We need individuals who are willing, to just do more than just tell us how they made it or their path to success, but we need individuals who are willing to take us by the hand, show us the way, to create opportunities, to open doors, to make introductions, to help us to get where we want. And if you're looking for a great example of that, I encourage you to look at the story of Misty Copeland, the principal ballerina in the American Ballet Theater. And if you take note of her career, you'll find that at one point of her career she met an investment banker from one of the top investment banks, and he literally took her under his wings, brought her into his circle of high wealth networked individuals who helped support her and helped give her the tools and the introductions that she needed to be ultimately, coupled with her sheer talent, of course, to ultimately be able to make it to principal ballerina. So take a look at Misty's story. 6, you have to know and understand your company's mission and their values and their policies and their practices. And this is similar to what Dr. Tolbert said in terms of understanding your health plan. If you're working at a place and you don't understand what makes that place ticks, what's important to that place, and in the event you find yourself in a situation where you're not 100% happy at work, or where something has happened to you, such as possible discrimination or harassment has happened to you at work, and you want to know how to handle that situation, go to your employee handbook. Go to your company policies and practices. Oftentimes we get that handbook the first day of work, and a bad handbook is like 50 or 60 pages. A great handbook is small and concise and to the point. But that, if it's written well and if it's done well, that handbook is the Bible of that company. It says what the company is about, what's important to it, and more importantly, how to access your rights and your benefits within the company. It tells you how to file a complaint if you feel some level of discrimination or harassment. It tells you who you should talk to. It tells you, most importantly, when your paydays are and how to access your health benefits and what those benefits are. So that is a critical way to empower yourself, to know the mission, to know the value, to know the cultures, to know the policies and procedures and how to access those. And finally, and most importantly to me, and something that's taken me a lifetime to, I haven't mastered it, I'm still working on it, that's to find work-life balance. Yes, we all spend so much time at work, and it's in this culture with technology and our phones and 24-hour communication, it's hard to turn off from work, but in order to be our best selves and to be the most effective we can be at work, we've got to separate our work life from the other things that are important to us. We have to take time to be with our family, to be with our friends. As Yasmeen said, to find organizations and things that we're committed to that are important to us and allow us to live out our passions in addition to our work. So pick a time every day that you're going to turn your phone off or you're going to silence it. Make it at least pick one day out of every weekend that you're going to say no phone calls, no emails, it's off limits. And I understand that some of us don't have that luxury and some of our jobs don't present those luxuries, but find a way in your own way and establish boundaries and let your boss and let your company know that during this time you're going to have some boundaries to do some other things that are important to you. And if it's a great company and if it's a great company that values its people, then I promise you they won't be offended by your doing that. So those are my 7 quick tips. I have so many other things I would love to share with you, but just in my experience of seeing employers and employees at odds and in dispute with each other, these are a few of the things I think will help empower you in your workplace. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you, Angela. You know, it's amazing to me, you know, listening to Glenna and Angela of how many of our Bruins are really in these spaces where they're interacting with other people and trying to make lives better for everyone. And that's what is a big part of why we wanted to talk about these things tonight. So thank you for offering that checklist. It makes me think about my own workplace. I'm going to go look for a sponsor, of which there's plenty of Bruins that I know that would love to hopefully serve in that role. So I hope this also becomes a start of a conversation for many of you that are watching. And there's 4 lovely alumni right here that really put themselves out there. I'm really grateful to be ending with Wendy. I think we spent some time thinking about how we interact in social circles, and particularly in places that we're sort of navigating spaces with others. And we'd like to sort of end it on a more internal reflection. So our next guest is coach, consultant, and speaker and author, Wendy Gladney Dean. She holds a bachelor's in political science from UCLA and sits on the board of UCLA Black Alumni Association. She has worked in managing nonprofits and events for over 20 years and founded the organization Forgiving for Living, Incorporated. She is the author of 2 books focused on the subject of forgiveness, Healing Without Hate, How to Forgive to Live, and The Preacher's Daughter and Memoir. Wendy will be speaking to us on the power of forgiveness.
Thank you, Patricia. I'm just so excited to be here with my fellow Bruins, these lovely ladies who've shared so many tips that I took notes on, and I know that I'll be able to grow as well as I continue to self-advocate for the life that I desire. But for my presentation, I'd like to start with an exercise. So if everyone wouldn't mind, I'd like for you to take a moment and take your fist. Now take your fist, ball them up, squeeze as hard as you can. Now count with me. We're going to go to 10. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now open your palms very slowly with your hands and your palms faced upward. When you do that, do you feel a release? Do you feel like you've just let some things go from your body? That's exactly what it's like when you let go of unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, and things that you've been holding on to for quite some time. And I learned at an early age the importance of letting some things go. You see, as a child, I experienced abuse by my father, sexual abuse by my father, abandonment from my mother. And then as time went on, I also knew what it was like to go through divorce, single parenting, also dealing with a bout of cancer. And through all of those times, I had to learn to let a lot of things go, to forgive, not just myself, but others. And oftentimes, it's really hard for us to forgive ourselves. I've had people ask me, Wendy, where did this whole issue of forgiveness and letting things go come from for you? Well, you see, as a child, I had a wonderful grandmother. My grandmother on my paternal side, we called her Mother Dear. She was actually first-born generation in our family free of slavery. Her father was born a slave and freed as a little boy. So she taught me a lot of things that she knew just growing up in hard times and the importance of letting a lot of things go. And even though I didn't totally understand it all as a child, I internalized it. And I knew that one day something would come true or make sense to me. So I held on to those teachings that my grandmother gave me. So from that, I learned how to take stumbling blocks and turn them into stepping stones. And so what came to me was something that I call Healing Without Hate, How to Forgive to Live. And in that, there are 10 steps that I'm going to share with you quickly. So if you have a pen, don't forget to jot them down. The first one is prayer or meditation. Basically, when you take some time to just go quiet within yourself and just kind of sit, reflect, and deal with whatever the issues may be so that you can have a clear mind as you're working through them. Number 2, make sure that you get counsel. Seek good counsel. Get help. Don't be afraid or ashamed to get the kind of help that you need when it comes to getting things right in your life. Number 3, confront. Oftentimes we want to confront those that have done us wrong or that have hurt us, but sometimes we also have to confront ourselves. I think oftentimes it's hard to look in the mirror. The next step, number 4, is release. Remember that exercise that we did at the very beginning where we balled up our fists and then let the things go in our lives? It's the same thing. We have to learn to release and let a lot of things go. The next step is number 5, which to me is the cornerstone, forgive. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about pardon versus parole in a moment, but just think about that. Are you really forgiving others? Are you forgiving yourself? The next thing that I want you to stand on is point number 6, attitude. Do you have the right attitude? Do you have an attitude of gratitude? Do you try to look at things where maybe the glass is half full and not half empty? Oh heck, let's just go get the pitcher for that matter, and let's just keep filling up that glass. Have a great attitude. And our next step is all about joy. Learn to seek the joy and happiness in your life. Find out the things that bring you joy on the inside, which is your center, which is your focus, and then the things that make you happy that are happening around you. Find the things that will bring that joy and happiness into your life. The next thing is goals. Make sure that you have something to live for. Make sure you have purpose. We've already heard that from some of our other speakers, the importance of purpose and having a reason that you get up every day and make a difference in this life. And then after goals, number 9 is give. No matter where you are in life, you have something to give to others. And then number 10 is live. Make sure you live your life now. You have to live most of your life before most of your life is gone. We don't know what tomorrow brings, so do all that you can this day to be all that you can be and live out your purpose. So let's go back to that number 5 about forgive, when I just wanted to share with you a little bit about pardon versus parole, because I think this is key when we're trying to understand forgiveness. Oftentimes we parole people. We even parole ourselves, which means that we have conditions on it. We say, okay, I forgive her, but if she ever does that again, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. So that means you really haven't forgiven her. You haven't let that go. It's still controlling you. Now, if we pardon someone, that's almost as if it didn't happen. Now, I'm not saying they didn't do wrong. I'm talking about the consequences of how it controls you. Because if something's still controlling you, you've not gotten over it. Now, I do believe when people have done wrong, they have to pay the consequences. We've had a lawyer tell us some things today, so we know that we have to answer to the law. However, I, again, am talking about self-advocacy, how you're taking care of yourself and learning to let some things go. So don't forget the importance of forgiveness. And so as I close, I just want to share with you that I think it's very important. It's something that I try to live by. And it's my mantra. I call it healing without hate. It's a choice. You can choose to do so. It's a lifestyle. It's something that doesn't just happen one time. You have to practice it every day. And then I tell people, pass it on. That means share it. When people ask you why you can be the way you are, or to live and to smile and to be happy, it's because you've learned the secret and the power of forgiveness in taking care of yourself. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thank you all, actually, so much for sharing a little morsel of so many things that I know that you can speak to for a very long time. But last, we are at an hour, and so I wanted to actually maybe pitch some questions that we got ahead of time. In the meanwhile, feel free to ask some questions via the Google Hangout, and we'll have our moderators shoot those out. The first question that we got asked that I'd like to actually send to Yasmeen is, what was the most beneficial thing you learned while in college? Or Glenna, do you want to answer that question? What was the most beneficial thing you learned while in college?
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. Okay, great. Sorry.
Okay.
I was
Yep, go ahead, Yasmeen.
I didn't hear what you said, but thank you. It sounds like what was the most beneficial thing I learned in college? I would say that a couple of the most beneficial things I learned, number one, we kind of all touched on it, and that is learning how to work with people and influence them. I think learning how to communicate with people who are different from you. One of the things I really appreciated going to UCLA is that I had roommates of all different backgrounds and cultures. And so interacting with people that were different from my own background and forming friendships and relationships, because when you get out into the workplace, it's about relationship building.
Thank you, Yasmeen. The next question I have is for Angela. A question that we got was, when did you know exactly which career path you wanted to follow? How many times did you change your mind? And do you ever believe there's a limit to this?
What a great question. So growing up, I always did a lot of public speaking, so people would tell me, oh, you should be a lawyer, you should be a lawyer. And so I guess always in the back of my head, I thought I might be a lawyer, but I didn't know for sure. And so I found myself a junior in college, and I went to a small liberal arts college. And in a small liberal arts college, you don't have to take any required courses. You just sort of pick your major and you go with it. And so I was an English major, and I looked up and I was like, so what am I going to do with this English major, you know? And I knew I wasn't as very good at math or sciences, and quite frankly, Dr. Glenna had not taken any math or science courses in college. So I said, well, what can I do with just an English major? And I said, I know, I'll apply to law school. And I guess I kind of had that in the back of my head anyway. So I took the LSAT and applied to law school. And as I stated, I thought it was going to be an entertainment lawyer, but picked employment law. And still am an employment lawyer, but 5 years ago decided to reinvent myself and do something else that I find more empowering within employment law. So I say there's always one I do, but I'm glad I had the foundation that I had. I'm glad I got the training I had and that I did it for 15 years, because I feel very confident having made a change. So I do encourage you to find something that you're passionate about, to be good at it, to learn it, and that way if you decide to do something else or to expand in some way, you feel confident that you can do that because you have the background and the foundation that you need. And there's always opportunities to reinvent yourself.
Thank you, Angela. Next question is to Wendy. It's so easy to be caught in the usual daily routine, especially if it's repetitive. What are some ways that you inspire yourself day to day?
Patricia, that's an excellent question, because as an entrepreneur who also is based out of my home when I work and I'm not in the field, you do have to have that energy to make sure that you stay motivated. But I think going back to what some of the other comments have been with the ladies tonight is it's about purpose. For me, I have a saying, I call it meaning, message, mission. When you know your meaning in life, you can develop your message and carry out your mission. And I get every day knowing my meaning. And also, because of my faith, I also always tell God, you know, you have total permission to change my agenda each and every day. And so it's exciting to see sometimes what He puts on there for me. So I'm always motivated. I always start my day in such a way where I have a great attitude and an attitude of gratitude, because I know I have another day to make a difference.
Thank you, Wendy. Next question is to Glenna. Are there any books, or actually any of the panelists too, but particularly for this one, you recommend on the topic of empowering oneself in regards to work and health and healthcare? Or even articles you might suggest people read?
Wow, that's a tough one. Well, I've never had anyone ask me that before. Well, it's interesting. I think you should actually, as John Wooden used to say, because I love John Wooden, but I think any good literature, actually, good literature, you can find something about health in any type of really good literature. And what I mean by that is, it goes back to what we're saying about passion. And my practice has a large wellness component to it. And you might think, what does wellness mean? It's what we're saying, basically. When you have passion, you're happy. When you have passion, what do they say? You know, you're working, you know, you don't even realize you're working. And that all leads back to good health. That all leads back to good health. And it's designing your life that you want. And so I think just really any type of really good literature, you can find something that should be able to inspire you. Because now in 2016, we all know the basics. The information is out there about, diet, exercise, sleep, stress. Everyone knows those things. But really what ties it all together are two things, which I think is designing the life you want, so you are happy, so you are loving, so you are productive. And then one of my favorites, though, is keeping it moving, because I believe everyone can have some form of exercise.
Thank you. Angela, do you have any suggestions that you would recommend in terms of books around empowering oneself around work?
Well, I'm an avid reader, and I love reading books by by successful people. So one of the books I'm reading now is Thrive by Arianna Huffington, and I think she gives some great insights about how she worked to build her life and build the career that she had, and she reached a point, Dr. Glenna, where she had some health challenges, and it reminded her that she needed to balance her work with some other important things, like sleeping. Like, she's a big advocate of 8 hours of sleep a night, as am I. So Thrive, Lean In is a great book about how to grab your career by the reins and really lean in and be active and engaged in your career. And I can't think of the name of the book, but a book that I want to read. It's real popular now about decluttering your life and how that kind of creates opportunity. So I'm a type A, so I'm a big fan of organization and not having clutter around. So I look forward to reading that. And then finally, my favorite thing right now are TEDx talks. So I spent 2 weekends ago just listening to the top, TED Talks of all times, and that's where we all met, at a TED Talk at UCLA. So they're great snippets, 18 minutes or less, and great opportunity to hear some of the great minds of our time.
Thank you. Yasmeen, did you want to chime in on that one?
I did, and just kind of along the same lines as what Angela just mentioned about TED Talks, I'm probably going to do a plug for UCLA's Center of Mindfulness, which I just discovered recently, which is all about mental health and also your overall physical health, but really focusing in on mindfulness. I didn't know that UCLA even had a Center for Mindfulness, for those of you guys who don't know, and they have a free podcast, which is awesome, and you can literally play these mindfulness meditations, and no matter what your faith or background is, it really does have an impact on your overall well-being. So I would suggest that. And then also apps. There are so many awesome health apps that are out there. I've got one on my iPhone called Breathe, which is also related to mindfulness. You can actually put in like how you're feeling that day, if you're angry, if you need to forgive someone, and then it will give you a tip and give you an exercise.
And then before I have Wendy chime in, please have the questions keep coming. I know we have a few more minutes, but I think we'll have time for one or two more, so feel free to add those. So Wendy, you want to chime in on what you're reading or listening to right now?
Wow, everything the lady said was excellent, and I just want to comment on one book, and Angela made a little bit of a mention to it in her talk, and that is, it's called Forget a Mentor, Get a Sponsor. And that is a really good book, and that was referred to me by a colleague of mine, and then when I finished, I passed it on to my daughter, so it was a good book. The other book that I would recommend is Start With Why, because it helps you to kind of walk through a few things and think through it as you're making decisions and you're moving forward with not only your career but your life. And then finally, I'm actually reading Pope Francis's book that just came out about mercy, and God is mercy. And so I mean, I read a lot too, kind of like Angela, and sometimes I'm reading multiple books at the same time, and I kind of get them crossed up because I have to stop and say, okay, wait a minute, focus on one book and finish it. But there's so much out there, and just listening to the ladies tonight, I learned a few things. So Yasmeen, thank you for sharing that information and the apps. I'm going to have to go look those up.
If I could just chime in just 1 second. Wendy mentioned about reading multiple books, which I do the same thing. So one book I'm actually reading is called One Thing, and it's by the founder of Keller Williams Realty Company. And he talks about how he built Keller Williams by focusing in on what they did best and just focusing on one thing. And I personally, I tend to have 1,000 things going on at one time and in my head, and many goals that I want to accomplish. And so this year, I've been challenging myself to focus in on the one thing that I can do this year to make my health better, to take my career to the next level, to better engage family and friends. So that's a great book also. I don't know if it's called One or One Thing, but it's by the founder of Keller Williams.
Very nice. You know, maybe to some of the current people who come and visit campus, can you name a place that really inspires you on campus that maybe if an alumnus comes back to visit, sort of takes you back to that place of rechanneling what Yasmeen says, that inner Bruin spirit? And I'll send that to Yasmeen first, actually.
Sure. Well, gosh, the campus changes, it seems like, every week. I would probably say the one thing that remains constant is, of course, the Bruin bear, right? It's kind of that center pivotal emblem of what the Bruin community stands for, and then also just amongst that Bruin walk runway, if you will, everyone passes through there. It's kind of like a microcosm of what life is like, right? You've got all these intersections, people, that's the thoroughway of life on the campus of UCLA. So I would definitely say the Bruin bear.
Thanks, Yasmeen. Glenna?
It's so funny you asked me that because I do come up to campus a lot, and I do come for inspiration. And the last time I was working on some policies and procedures, Angela, for my staff, I actually went straight to South Campus. And I love the neuroscience research building over there, and then I discovered that there's an orthopedic, let's call it the orthopedic clinic there, and I think there's some regenerative medicine, and that's one of my research areas. So I love still South Campus and the neuroscience and the research, and so I could still combine, like I said, working on policies and procedures for my employees with the science. And I had even said to my husband, boy, that's the most work I've gotten done in a long time.
Thanks, Aunt. Thanks. Wendy?
That's an interesting question because for me, I'm class of '83. I have seen the campus change tremendously since I've been coming back more often. But an area that I really love is Royce Hall. And I still like going up in that area. It takes me back. No matter how much the campus changes or new additions come, there's something about the Royce Hall and where the library is that just takes me back to the days when I used to walk the campus from one end to the other. And even Bruin Walk has changed for me. So the last time I was there, it looks a little bit different from when I was a student there back in the late 70s and early 80s. But the little grassy area between over by Royce Hall and those buildings over there just kind of always makes me smile.
Thank you. And Angela?
So one of the reasons I wanted to go to UCLA was because I went to a very small college, which I love, but I thought I would go to a larger university for law school so I would get that big school experience, go to the football games, the basketball games, and so forth. But law school, for any of you who know about that, is pretty grueling. So I didn't get a chance to explore the campus in the way that I wanted to. So my UCLA campus experience was Lot 2, Murphy Hall, and the law school. So now that I'm an alumnus of the school, I've had a chance to explore other areas of the campus. But that said, I think my favorite place to go back to is the law school. I just celebrated my 20th year last year from graduating, and every time I walk into the hallowed hallways of the law school, I am just in awe and just feel very fortunate that I had a chance to go to school at UCLA and to get such a great education. So for me, it's that long hallway when you enter the law school that inspires me.
And maybe to close us out today, I want us to go back to the topic. Your best advocate is you. And you know, when we often think about why we talk about self-advocacy is because our lives are full of ups and downs, right? Opportunities and challenges. So maybe it's thinking about, for the panelists, to think about a challenge that you have overcome, and what was sort of that guiding muse for you during that time, to offer us a piece of advice around that. And I'll have Glenna go first.
Oh, you would pick me first. There's so many ups and downs and challenges. My goodness. Could you just repeat it real quickly, though, for me?
Yeah, so maybe thinking about one challenge that you have overcome. If you want to talk about what that is, great. But maybe thinking about that muse that got you through it, right? What really got you through it, and how did you overcome that challenge? That could maybe serve as a piece of advice to anyone that might be overcoming a challenge right now.
Well, boy, there's so many, and so I think it's difficult just to pinpoint one in particular, because it's just as you said, that's life. That's life. You know, we have ups, we have downs, and as Angela would say, we want to lean into the challenges so we can grow. And to piggyback off of what Wendy said, what always gets me through is my faith in God. And I do a high five with my patients, and I tell them, we're soldiers, we're warriors. So it's my faith.
Thank you. Yasmeen?
Sure. So I will share, during the Great Recession, I was one of the fortunate persons who was laid off. And I got laid off from a really great job, and I loved my team and my boss and everyone. And I was laid off for nearly a year. And during that process, I can't emphasize how difficult it was to get interviews. You know, before, when you wanted an interview, it happened very easily, and then to suddenly experience this drought was very difficult. I would say the things that helped me move through it were being patient, being persistent, not giving up, and remaining positive and having a positive attitude that at some point a new door would open up. And also turning that down into an up, right? So that was also at the same time when I started the Black Women Matter Network, and really was able to kind of focus in on issues that affected Black women at that time, particularly unemployment. And I was right there in the midst of it. So I would say persistence, remaining positive, and keep moving forward.
Thank you. And I know we're running out of time, but I definitely want to hear from the other two. So, Wendy?
Yes, as I shared during my presentation, as I already told you, I went through so much as a child and even as an adult, and through it all, no matter what, whether it was health issues, whether it was relational issues, I learned don't sweat the small stuff. Just learn how to get through it, and faith for me has also been very instrumental, and having family that is in your corner is also a big one. So again, just don't sweat the small stuff. Let it go.
Thank you, Wendy. And Angela?
I agree with Dr. Tolbert that there's just so many challenges, especially when we think back of what it takes to matriculate through college and university and medical school and law school and graduate degrees. So just thinking back, I think those are probably some of the toughest times, and just the sacrifices you have to make in terms of your personal life and just committing yourself to that process. So I think I would just say to students who are currently in school that are recent graduates that, you get through it, it's fine, you make it to the other side, and even if you don't quite start out on the track that you want to, somehow, the way life works, the ebb and flow of life, it always finds us finding our right place. And so just know that what you're seeing in front of you is just a moment in time, and that the next moment will be better. And I'll just close with a quote that I saw in a parking garage yesterday, since my talk was about work. It says, "The dictionary is the only place where success comes before work." So work hard, and the success will come. Pursue your passion, and the success will come.
Thank you so much. And so we're going to wrap it up, and I actually want each of the panelists to think about a word that you find synonymous with the word Bruin. Angela, you want to kick that?
Blue. Even though I have red on now.
Glenna?
Fabulous.
Wendy?
Enduring.
Excellence.
And that is so very true. There are so many words that can describe what we are as Bruins, and I want to thank you all each so much for spending your evening with us today. It's been so thought-provoking and self-reflective and really empowering to think about the ways that we need to revisit our workplace or our healthcare plan and all the ways that we interact with others that are outside us and our world around us. I just want to close and say, you know, this is our second installation of EmPower Hour, and we're really looking for others to maybe think about contributing things as well. So if you're interested, please give us an email at diversity@ucla.edu. We're interested in topics that you're interested in, and if there's something that you'd like to share. And we look forward to getting your emails there. So on that note, thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you to all the viewers. It's been so overwhelming and just so awesome to see so many Bruins coming together on this virtual platform. And so in the tradition of most of our events, we actually had to ask Yasmeen to cut this out originally, but would like to actually have her put it back in. And so we're going to do a virtual 8-clap, and I'm going to have Yasmeen lead us. And after that, we'll just say goodbye, and thank you all so much. So, all right, take it away, Yasmeen.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight.
Thank you all so much, and please stay tuned with us. Follow us on our website, and stay in touch. We'd love to all you have come back. Good night.